Okay, so here we go. Make sure you have your calculator ready. Oh, here you go. So, I want to focus on the ones with a star. So this one has a star because it's not in general form. This one should also have a star. And this one should also get a star, right? Anything that has brackets in it, I always want to make sure you understand that is not in general form. Where should we put this? I'll put this here with a star. Anything that has a star is not general. How do you deal with that? Well, let's do the parts we do know. The opening would be, in this case, down. And why is that? A is negative. What's the width of this thing? It's actually wide. Okay. It's going to be, we would consider it wide because A is between 0 and 1. That's what we're saying here. It's less than 1, but greater than 0. So anything in there makes it wide. And then the y-intercept, you cannot just say it's -3. It's not correct. It's not in general form. So I'm going to show you how to do that by hand. Y-intercept, let's go over here and just remind ourselves. The y-intercept is, it happens when x is equal to 0. I don't know if you remember that, right? When you hit the y-axis, x is equal to 0. So we will do this. Let x equal to 0. I'm going to zoom in just to that section so you can see better. Okay. There we go. Now we're talking. So what I'm going to do, watch carefully here. I'm going to plug in 0 for x and then solve the thing and see what I get. That is going to be my y-intercept. Okay. So I'm going to go y is equal to -0.91. 0 plus 2 squared minus 3. This is just 0 plus 2 is 2, right? 2 squared is 4. So this ends up being -0.91 for positive minus 3. And at this point, I would say you can type it into your calculators. Right, -0.91 times 4 minus 3. You got to go minus, not negative, otherwise it's going to multiply. And so that's -6.64. Okay, so the y-intercept here is 0, -6.64. That's why my key had that there. I didn't show it on the key, but that's where I got that from. Okay, so let's try that with one of the other ones. If you don't mind, just to warm up, I'm going to ask you to try this one right here. Try to find the y-intercept. If you can fit it into that box, some of you are it's quite impressive how small you can write things. But yeah, just show the work either underneath or show it right in that box. But how do you find the y-intercept there? If you already did it, just wait for us. Okay. Oh yeah, my key shows how to use the calculator. Some weird keystrokes there. Don't worry about it just yet. If that was gibberish to you, I don't blame you. Okay, just focus on finding it by hand, just like I have here. See if you can do it. Morning. Okay, there's a charger. Yeah. Ethan, you stop. Oh. Yeah, there we go. -4 squared, that's positive, right? Anything squared, if it's inside, if the negative is inside the brackets, it's going to be positive. Okay. And that gives us 9. So y is equal to 9 here. I like the intercept is not, I liked it to be stated in coordinates because it's not an equation, right? Because there's the equation of the min or max, that's different. This is it. And don't be scared of the f of x. Oh, why did I do f of x? This one doesn't have f of x, but it would be the same as saying y is f of 0. It's the same thing. You're still finding the y-intercept. Okay? It's a notation I've been like that. So there we have it. And then this one, I'll just write it down here. It's supposed, oh, maybe I should try this one because it's a little different. But this is the answer. But this is always an option for finding the y-intercept. Always. Just let x equal to 0, and then you go for it. So g of 0 is -1/3, 0 minus 4, 0 plus 5. And that'd be -1/3, -4 times 5. And so that would be essentially -20, -1/3 times -20. And the two negatives, when they multiply, they give you a positive. So it's essentially 20 divided by 3, which is 6.6 repeated, but we round to 2 decimals, right? So that's how I got the 6.67 there. All right. Now we're gonna, what else did I have? I had the domain and range, correct? Very important concepts. So that was on page 8. Again, if you looked at the key, you should have made at least internalized it. Okay, so I will remind you that even though the graphs don't have that, I want you to get used to saying, hey, this is x-axis, y-axis. In this case, we don't have a work problem attached to this, so it just continuously increases. Same with this one, right? We've got a y-axis, the x-axis, and the legs just keep on spreading apart indefinitely. Okay. You need domain and range isn't going anywhere. So if you weren't sure how to do this, come and see me. It's a bit blurry, right? Come and see me, but maybe I'll do one. Set notation. For now, this is how you do your domain. It's everything, okay? And then the range would be y is greater than or equal to, just pointing up, greater than. So on your study sheet, you might have something like that, like it pointing up, a small graph, and just say y is greater than. And then you see here the coordinates would be 5, 1 of the vertex here. And so it's greater than or equal to 1. And for interval notation, this is what you write. Make sure you have round brackets. And then for interval notation in terms of the range, the lowest value you can possibly get is 1. And then we go all the way up to positive infinity. So you have a round bracket there, a square bracket there, because you're including 1. Okay, you're including 1 in that case. So you'll see a pattern later on, but we're going to be enclosed, so there's not going to be many infinities down the road, and it's a word problem. This is where I want to park today, and I want you to become quite proficient at it. So if we go to page 9, there are a couple of things here I want you to be aware of before we start graphing. From time to time, some students miss, like if you look at the top box here, I think it's important to highlight that. When using second trace functions, you might see something like this, right? And as soon as you have e to the negative 7, anything e, that's an exponent. It's saying, watch this. Some of you are very familiar with scientific notation. If you're taking chemistry, I'm sure Mr. Carrington talks about that all the time. Okay, because you're dealing with very small values there, sometimes big values, right? But when you see this, e to the negative 7, it's saying 5.7143 times 10 to the negative 7. It's a very, very small number. In this course, we would just say that is 0. Okay, we don't go that small. We don't go to those significant small values. We just say that's 0 for us. But whatever, some students will write down, hey, the answer is 5.71. And it's actually, if you wrote this, I would accept it. But if you just write that without the 10 to negative 7, that's actually wrong, flat out wrong. Okay, so you got to watch out for that. If you see the E, don't fall for it. It's 0. It's the calculator is just trying to be so precise that it will sometimes do this, but not very frequently. It does happen. So we're going to fill in the chart below and then graph. Show your keystrokes. That's very important in this unit, showing your keystrokes. Okay. How did you get that answer? Because we're using calculators, that's your work, showing us how you got it. So grab your calculators and be ready for the journey. There's going to be some hiccups, but as you try these questions, as I assign them, you will come to me and be like, why is this happening to me? And I'll tell you, I've seen it all pretty much, right? So I'll be like, oh, you're typing this in wrong right here, or you should be pressing this button before, or something like that. So whenever you have an equation, it doesn't matter what it looks like, you want to be entering it into y equals, right? So you want to press y equals when you want to graph something. If you have stuff in there right now, I want you to clear everything that's there. So you just press the clear button, right? So you go arrow down. So whatever is in these y equals, clear it. Okay? Some students want to prank you, the grade 12s or the former grade 11. So make sure you go all the way down and you erase the last one here, y10. Okay? Otherwise, it's going to graph that. Anything that's in here, it's going to graph it. Okay? So let's go all the way back up. Another thing I want you to be aware of is these plots here should not be highlighted. So if yours looks like this, enter is the way to highlight or deselect, right? So if you hit enter and you move away from it, it's going to stay selected. That means it's on right now. Plot 1 is on. You want to turn it off. So go to the very top, hit enter, move away. It should not be selected. Chances are it is selected, but make sure none of that is selected because it's going to complain, right? It's going to give you an error right now if you have that on. Okay, so that's another thing. Here's one more thing that I want you to change on your calculators just to make sure we all have the same setting. Let me just first play around with it. No. Yeah, okay. I want you to press second for zoom, second, and then press the zoom button. You should see this screen right here. Second zoom. If you want to quit this, what is the second mode? Quits to the home screen. Second zoom right now, I'm actually in accessing format. When you press second, the blue is what you're accessing. So I want you to check and make sure all your settings are the same. So this is on, grid is off, axes, yeah, we can leave them black, labels off, expression is on, border color, I have it set to 1, background off, but this is the important one, the last one on the screen here, detect asymptotes. I want you to turn that, I want it to be in off position or else your graph is going to be slower. That's the most important one right here. Turn, like if it's on, you go over to off and press enter, and then it will turn it off. Okay. Got this? All right. Let's go to y equals again and enter this thing. This first one, the leading coefficient, that negative, you have to press the negative button, not the minus, because if you press the minus, you're going to get an error message. Okay. So the leading coefficient has to be negative. So let's press negative 0.5. And that x, do not press times on your calculator. It's the variable x. So you press this button right here, x t theta n. That's your x variable right there. Hold on, I'm going to make sure you understand that. That is x t theta n, right? That's that button that you're pressing. And make sure you square it. So there's the x2 button, right? And then go plus 25x minus 200. Minus 200. So the only time you use the negative is for the very first one. And if you look at that negative and the minus, they look different, don't they? One is a little shorter than the other. Okay. So now we can graph it. Let's try it. Chances are it's not going to work. Don't panic. Okay. So press graph. I see a little something. Do you see anything? Some of you might not see anything. Don't panic. Before I'm going to start messing around with my window, I'm going to let's talk about this a little bit. Which way is it opening? A is negative, so this is going to be down, right? That's why I want you to know before you graph it, what am I expecting here? I'm expecting it to point down because A is negative. What's the width of this thing? It is actually wide because A is between 0 and 1. It's 0.5, right? Just the numerical value. And what form is this in? This is in general form. How do I know? I don't have any brackets. Okay, so these things, always, they're there to help you out. Does this give me my y-intercept? The answer is yes. It's 0, negative 200. 0, negative 200. It's 0c, okay? That's how I know this is my y-intercept. I just look at c, and boom, there it is. So let's go back to our graph here. The first thing that I would suggest you do is we're gonna try zoom. So zoom, press zoom, and there's a bunch of zooms, and you can try them. I'm not gonna discourage you, but let's all try zoom standard. That's the first one I want to introduce you to. So you select it, so you either press number 6 or you go all the way down to it and highlight it and then hit enter. So let's all hit enter right now on zoom standard. And I just see a little leg here. Right? We know that it goes like this, correct? It's going to go like this because we know it's pointing down. So let's keep that thought in mind. What does zoom standard do, guys? You now are looking at a window that it goes positive 10 here, negative 10 there. It goes negative 10 in the y's and positive 10 in the y's. That's the zoom standard window. Okay, that's what you're looking at right now. And it's a nice way to reset it. I'm going to write that down here. Go to the bottom of this graph. And I'm going to say zoom standard changes the window to negative 10, 10, and negative 10, 10. What is that? This is what we call the X min, the X max, the Y min, and the Y max. That's what these numbers stand for. So the lowest X value that will be shown is -10. The highest is +10. Negative Y value, -10, +10, Y max. Okay. So that's my first zoom. The other one is zoom fit. I'm going to just see zoom fit. This one tries to zoom into graph. But not perfect, okay? It's not a perfect solution, but it does help you out. Tries to zoom into the graph as best as possible, okay? So let's try this again now. I'm going to try zoom fit right now, okay? I'm copying that still. I'm going to put it over here. Before we do zoom fit, hold on. Don't do zoom fit just yet. If you did zoom fit, just do a zoom standard again so that we all are looking at the same graph. Zoom standard. Let's press the window button. It's not working? I'll come and see you. Press the window button. Do you see the X min, X max, Y min, Y max? I want to show that error. Okay. Okay, here's a perfect example. If you put a minus there, not a negative, if you try to graph, if it says syntax error, it means like the way you typed it in is wrong. Okay. You have two options. You can quit, not the course, just the application. Right? Or you can go to. Sometimes if you select go to, it's going to tell you what it doesn't like. So let's try that. I'm going to hit enter and see it took me right to that. It doesn't like that. So I'm going to replace that with a negative and try graphing again. Oh, there's the X missing here. This one. There's an X there. So X minus 200. Now let's try it. There it is. Okay. Yeah. The negative is that negative. Yeah.
They're saying it's not incomes. These are all numbers.
Anybody else have any calculator issues? Okay. Another good error. I can't recreate them. I don't always think of all the ways. Okay, here's another one. Pay attention because this could happen to you. Okay, it's not, it just happens. So we have that correct equation in there. I try to graph. It doesn't let me. It doesn't even have the go to option. The only thing is to quit. When that happens, it says that the X max is smaller than the X min. That's what it's saying. Something is wrong. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to quit. Zoom standard usually fixes that. Okay, that's why zoom standard is important. It resets your window if you have wrong values in there. So I'm going to go enter. And there it is. I don't know if you saw that. The screen is different than mine, the resolution, but it is there. Okay, that fixed the problem. Zoom standard fixes your problem quite often. Okay. Anybody else? Fun. Okay. So it's going to be frustrating at times, but for the most part, it's awesome, right? So, okay, graph. I'm going to hit graph. This is what I see. If you look at your window, I don't check anything else. You might have a different teacher next year. They might ask you to change the scale. I don't change it because it doesn't make a difference. X min, X max, that's what you want to look at. Y min and Y max, that's the other one you want to look at. Those are the 4 values that you may have to change in order to see your graph. Okay? All right. Let's hit graph again. We're getting there. I know some of you are like, just move on already. We're going to try zoom fit. So zoom fit is like way down. You got to go like way back, and it's actually option number 0. And I'm going to hit enter on zoom fit. Let's see if that works. Didn't solve my problem, did it? But it lets me see enough. Now I'm going to play around with it. I'm going to press my window. I want to increase the, watch this, I'm going to increase the Y max, and I'm also going to increase the X max. Okay, so press window. What should I change my X max to? I'm just going to go 100. Okay, 100. We're going to go way over to the hundreds there. I'm going to change my Y max. Let's put that at 100 as well, 100 positive. So I changed my X max and my Y max to 100 each. And you're like, how did you come up with that number, Mr. Dixon? I just made it up. Okay, I just made it up. Change it to something bigger, and then you might have to come back down. So let's hit graph now again. Let's graph it with our new window. Not bad, right? So the things that you always want to look for is all the intercepts. So the y-intercept, the x-intercept, and the other x-intercept. And most importantly, what do we call this here? Vertex, very important to us. So what do we have to change to see the vertex? The y max. We're going to change the y max. So let's go to window. I'm going to go to y max. What do you think? Should we go up by another 100? I think that's overkill. Okay. I'm going to go 125. Let's hit graph again. That is, I would say, near perfect. It's not, because you see that there's a little bit, we went a little bit too high with the X max, but it doesn't matter. If you see this thing, you're good. Watch what could happen. Okay. Don't change this. I'm just going to show you. If you went 1,000 with your X max, because now you're looking at 1,000, right? So your graph looks weird. Let me tell you, it's the same parabola. It's the exact same one. It's just zoomed out. Okay. So if that happens to you, don't worry about it. You're still going to be able to find everything. I like to see more. I like to have it like this. Okay. You could say, hey, I'm going to bring my X max down to like 80. That's fine, but I'm not going to do it. Okay. So if you're all seeing the parabola, now we're ready to find points. We could find all these points using the calculator. So the first thing I'm going to find is the vertex. This is how I find it. Second, trace. It's going to always be second trace, by the way. Is it a max or a min? Just by looking at it. It's a max. It's the highest. Okay. So we have to go max. So let's go ahead and do that. Second, trace. If you select minimum, it's not going to find it. Okay. So it's important to select max in this case. And watch what it does now. I'm going to zoom into my screen so you can see it. Where's your vertex? You know it's right here. Okay. Watch what it's asking you. It's telling you right now, give me a left boundary. It's going to look for it, but it's like, give me something that's to the left of the vertex. The cursor is right there. I'm going to use left arrow. For me, I have to use left arrow. I don't know what you have to do, but I'm going to go past it to the left. Anywhere to the left is fine. Is there okay? Yeah. Is that okay, Mr. Dirksen? Yeah. Is that okay, Mr. Dirksen? Yeah. It doesn't matter. Anything to the left of the vertex will do. I hope you all get that. Then you, at that point, you hit enter. And you'll see a line forming. Now it says, give me a right boundary. So we're going to go past it to the right of the vertex, anywhere to the right, using left arrow. Oh, sorry, right arrow in my case. I'm going to hit enter. And now you can see that you've told the calculator the vertex is anywhere between those two boundaries. And when it says guess in this calculator, you always just hit enter. Just once you're okay to start looking for it. So we're going to hit enter. And there it is. These are your coordinates down here. It says that the maximum is 25, negative, no, it's not negative, it's 112.5. They're both positive. So that's what we're going to write down here in our piece of paper. Okay? We're going to say that the vertex is 25, 112.5. And from the vertex, I don't know if you remember from yesterday, we can answer axis of symmetry and equation of the min and max just from this. The axis of symmetry, it's a vertical line that cuts through the vertex. It cuts your parabola in half. So it's the equation x is equal to 25. It's an equation, okay? You don't need any keystrokes because you don't need it for this case. Equation of min or max, we know it's an equation of the max. That would be y is equal to the y value of the vertex. That's the equation of the max. I'm just going to go like this. It's a horizontal equation that goes through the vertex. So from this one point we found, we were able to answer both of these. Now let's find the x-intercepts. You ready for this? Every teacher does it slightly differently. This is how I do it. I'll show you here. I let y2 equal to 0. And then I use second trace intersect. Second trace intersect. That's what I use to find the x-intercepts. Why? How so, Mr. Erickson? Why are you using that? Watch this. Go to y equals. Press y equals right now. I'm going to go down, arrow down to y2. I'm going to put a 0 in there. And then I'm going to hit graph. Every time you add an equation or you make changes, you have to hit graph again. And it will graph the new graph with the changes made. You see that red line? You're lucky that you have a colored screen. A couple years ago, it was just black and white, right? But you can actually clearly see that this is the y equals 0 line. So I'm going to find the intersection of the two lines here. That's the x-intercept number 1. And x-intercept number 2 is I'm going to find it over here. So you have to do this twice. Second trace intersect. Stands for intersection. What does it ask you for? First curve. Give me the first curve you want to consider. Because remember, you can have 10 curves at the same time. We won't, right? So curve number 1 is the blue one. Hit enter. Curve number 2 is the red one. Yeah. And in this case, you just want to get close enough on both curves to the point you're interested in. So for my second curve, I'm going to hit enter as well. And every time it says guess, just hit enter. And then it should stop right there at that point. 40, 0. Okay? And if you have issues with this, I'll help you because I want you to try this in a bit. 40, 0 is the first one, comma. We have to repeat the step to find this one here. So watch what I'm going to do again. Second trace, just do it with me again. Second trace intersect. It's still parked where you last found a point. So I'm going to go arrow, left arrow to go to the other one. You want to go close to it. You don't have to be right on it. Right? And then I hit enter. And the red also followed you. So normally you just have to hit enter and then enter again. And enter one more time when it says guess. And you get, what is it, 10, 0? You should get 10, 0 at the bottom here. And we have the intercepts, we have the vertex, we're happy, right? So now we're going to state the domain. Domain is, you choose, you want to go negative infinity, infinity, or you can go x belongs to all real numbers. It's not a word problem yet. What would my range be? Do you have something on your study sheet that could help you on that? When it comes to set notation, it's pointing down. So it'd be y is less than or equal to the y value of the vertex, which is in this case 112.5. Or you could say this goes as low as negative infinity all the way up to 112.5. Square bracket, round bracket. I'm going to pause there for a bit. Oh, I should show you. Never mind, there's one more thing I need to show you before I'm going to ask you to try page 10. We're not going to graph it on paper just yet. I want you to learn how to do this, and then I'll show you how to graph in a bit. Let's go back to the y-intercept. There are two ways to do y-intercept. This would have been the easiest way to just state it. You can also use this second trace value, and then you let x equal to 0. I'm going to highlight all those keystrokes later on. So let's do that together. We're expecting negative 200, but we're going to go second trace value, right? The first option. And it says, what x value do you want to consider? And I'm going to say, well, I want to know when x is equal to 0, what is y? That's the y-intercept. So just type in 0 and then hit enter. And lo and behold, you get negative 200, right? So it jives. However, this is also good for, like, let's go second trace value one more time. Second trace value. Let's say you want to consider, hey, if x is equal to 50, what's the y going to be? So let's type in 50 and then hit enter. And it actually shows you where on the graph you would be. When x is equal to 50, y is equal to negative 200. As well, that's pretty cool. I just made it up and I just got that. Okay. One more before I let you try this. If you go to y equals, let's go to y equals again. You know how I had y2 is equal to 0? We could make that anything. We could go type in negative 10, not minus 10. What's that going to do? It's going to graph you a line that is on the negative 10. Y is equal to negative 10. So let's go ahead and graph that. Oh, it's just slightly. Let's make it a bit more obvious. Let's change this to negative 50. So I press y equals, change that to negative 50. So we see the difference and then hit graph. There it is. So You could find the intersection here, perhaps, down the road, right? So don't just be fixated on the keystrokes that I'm showing you, but the ones that I am showing you are probably the most important ones right now, okay? So I'm going to highlight the pink one. The pink ones here are the most important ones. So these two. And the x-intercept. Those three are very important to any graph that you ever make. Make sure those three are there. Okay? And that's all I'm going to say for now, and then we're going to continue. I want you to try on page 10 to do what I just did on page 10. And I'm going to walk around because I'm aware that you might have some issues, but it's not in general form. It's not. So you're going to have to use keystrokes for everything, even for your y-intercept. Okay? Type it in exactly the way you see it. So let me just move here. Type this in exactly the way you see it, with brackets and all. Don't forget the square. I'll help you with that because it sucks when you're stuck on that part, because I want you to know how to do everything else. So I'm just going to clear whatever is there. I'm going to go bracket x minus 4. I'm going to press x2 to square that thing. Then I'm going to go minus 7. And the rest, I'm going to leave that up to you. Play around with the zoom. Play around. Maybe zoom fit. Do you need to change your window? All of that, I'm going to let you do that for now. It's a normal process of learning, okay? And then fill out the whole chart there. How to actually graph these on paper. But I'm going to first just make sure you all understand. I don't know, did you try Zoom Fit? I'm not sure what you tried, but you were all looking at the graph, so I was happy with it. I'm going to try Zoom Fit, doesn't work very well. I'm going to go Zoom Standard. I feel like that's what most of you did, Zoom Standard. The y-intercept is kind of cut off a bit, maybe, but that's good enough. So form, what form is this? Not general. It's actually vertex form. Opening is up because A is positive, so you have it like that. The width, A is equal to 1, so this is normal. Y-intercept, you don't know yet. Don't go ahead and go 0, -7. That's probably the most common mistake. Okay. What I want you to be aware of is that this is a min. The vertex here will be the minimum, the lowest point. If you miss that, you're not going to get the vertex. If you select second trace max when it's supposed to be min, you're not going to get the vertex. Okay. So I already typed this in. I'm going to find my y-intercept. Please tell yourself the keystrokes. I'm going to ask for it too. Second trace value x is equal to 0. That's how I find that. And so that's 0, 9, which I did see. Okay. The vertex, second trace min. It's the minimum. Okay. So you need to go, and like it doesn't really matter as long as you're somewhere to the left of it. You hit enter, you travel over to the right side, you hit enter, and then enter one more time. 3.99 rounds to 4 and -7. I don't know if you see a pattern. Look at your equation and then look at this. If you go back to vertex form in your notes, you could have actually just taken it from your equation, but that's okay. Axis of symmetry is 4. Equation of the min is -7. X-intercepts. You need to let y2 equal to 0 and then go second, trace, intersect. You tell yourself that. The way that works is you need to make sure y2 is equal to 0, hit graph, second trace 5, I just go second trace 5. Go as close as possible. It says first curve. Yeah, I'm on it. I'm going to go closer to that first intersection, hit enter, enter, enter. That's usually how it goes. Once you're close to it, you just hit enter, 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 and then you're good to go. So the first one is 1.350. The second one is second trace 5. I'm going to travel over to that second instance. That's close enough. Enter, enter, enter. Okay, that's 6.650. So you round it to 2 decimals, like so. Domain, you choose whichever one works for you. Range, this one is pointing up, so y is greater than or equal to -7. Or you go from -7 to positive infinity like that. Okay. Oops, can't see that, sorry. We're gonna run out of time. I'm not gonna show you how to graph this on paper because I want to take my time because we are particular with transferring this onto your graph. So what I'm going to ask you instead, hold on, don't pack just yet. Homework. I want you to use your calculator. So pages 9 to 11, find all points, okay? And if you feel like, you know what, I still need more practice, and page 29 to 30, okay? And I'm saying this, I'm not asking you to actually graph it on paper. I'm just asking you to find all these important points. Let me show you 29 to 30 though, because it's not as pretty as this one. If you're writing this down, I'm coming back to it. Let me show you. 29 to 30 is not as pretty, but it's essentially saying the same thing. There's your equation. Fill in. I'm asking you for your window settings, but that's optional. Like, you don't have to tell me. Sometimes I ask students in the past, like, what did you put in your window, like the X-min, X-max, Y-min, Y-max to see it? But that's more for you, not for me, right? So you don't have to do that one. Oh, there's a QR code. Hey, I did do that. I think that's the key. If you scan that QR code on page 29, I'm going to try it. Should know where that takes me, right? Maybe like a soccer game highlight or something. It's like, oh no, that's not the one. Doesn't let me. It's a key?
Yeah.
I think it's a video of me going over it where I actually graph it. So don't worry about the graphing, just get those points. That's the graphing part is going to be a piece of cake if you know how to get those points, okay? Trust me, it's very critical that you know how to do this because we're going to do a lot of it, okay?